All right, tonight is health. We've been talking about all these different subjects and how they clutter our lives, and tonight we're going to be talking about health. And I'm going to tell you right now that there may have been a part of me that got on Amazon to see if I could find like a 1980s, maybe like a 1980s aerobic outfit from head to toe. Like, I thought that would be super great, and a headband, and have the whole thing for y'all. And I felt like y'all would listen if I had that on, you know. And then I remembered that I'm Christian and that I'm supposed to love my neighbor. And so I spared you all. But I really wanted to, because every part of me before I became a therapist thought I was going to end up being on SNL. And then I realized I had actually no acting experience at all. Never even took one class, or I took one in college, but it didn't really count. But yeah, and so that feels right, to blend Jesus and your SNL abilities. Saturday Night Live, for those of you who don't know what that is and are good Christians and don't watch that. So that is not me. All right, and I'm trying to make sure. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn it like this. Oh, it's fine. I don't have to. Oh, gosh. It is really a good night. All right. So this whole time we've been talking about clutter in our lives, things that hit us hard, things that, just clutter up our everyday. And I keep saying each time that exposure and light on our issues are the start of cleanup. You can't start decluttering until you know your mess. So as we talk about health, I was getting very overwhelmed, because part of me was like, do I approach it from the part of, what to do if you're in bad health and how you handle that with God? And there's so much there. Like, you can sit there, and there's just so much pain and fear when it comes to health. Y'all just tell me if any random pickles come up on here again, okay? Or anything, y'all just kind of raise your hand at me, or don't worry. I would actually let y'all go through my phone. There's nothing in there that's that bad. Yay. But y'all at least tell me if something switches over, or a text comes through or something. So anyways, I was thinking about, do you approach it with how to handle things when you're having a hard time, when you're overwhelmed? And then I started thinking about, no, we'll just talk about the physical things to do to improve your health, and why that's important. And then I was like, I'm only going to talk about the physical. And then I started looking more and more, and I started realizing, just like everything else we talked about this semester and last semester, that it is all interconnected. Every single part of it is interconnected. There's nothing. It's so neat how God made our bodies this intricate, that nothing is separate. That I'll go through some examples in a second, but I just want to show y'all my brain. This is literally my brain when I was thinking through it, and I drew it. And I really think that it's magnificent. There it is. This was my third take, by the way. So yeah, I'm really good at drawing. It's a spiritual gift. I was me, and I was thinking about how we've talked about environment, and there's the physical, and we talked about mental health, especially more last time. And this was all the relationships. And I was it's just so overwhelming, how much is all affected by how we feel, and our bodies, and how they just all go together. So I just want y'all to have that. And if y'all want copies of that, just let me know. And we can send those out, right? It's not copyrighted. It's fine. I'll share. Well, I mean, how do you get it copyrighted? Maybe that's something we need to look into. So yeah, when you have your sight bothering you, we're getting there in this age. The last year, I'm something's definitely wrong. I definitely have some kind of tumor, because all of a sudden, I don't, but that's my brain. If you know me at all, that's how my brain works. It's worst case scenario, and then I'm wait, hold up, practice what you preach, take her down a notch. But when you look at your sight, of course, all of us have, had this health scare for 3 years of wondering the what ifs of that. And then there's health decisions that you don't really have a say on. There's some things we can prevent, but there's some that some of you know that they're not necessarily preventable. You can be as healthy as you want, but you might still have epilepsy. You might still have, cancer. Those are things that they're very, very scary. So I just don't know that anything makes us more vulnerable when we have things going on. It brings up fear. It takes all of our energy. And like I said, it's all connected. So if you don't feel good physically, you can't do a lot of other things. If I'm too sick to, get up in the morning and I don't have any energy, I might not read my Bible. So I drew out your formal drawing, and you'll be blessed with that tonight. And then I was thinking about, like, what do we do? Like, what can we do? And I'm going to keep talking about this, but we have so much information now. Compared to, years ago, we have so much information. So how do we sort through it all? How do we say, I need to have more, eat healthier, exercise more? Where angles do you take? And so we'll kind of divide that up a little bit. I was talking to a client recently, and she's younger, and she's had some pretty major health issues that weren't her fault. Like, it's something completely like that she was born with, and it's neurological. And we were talking about it, and I was listening to her be mad at everyone. And I understand that. I can be in that with her and have empathy for that. But I was listening to her be mad at everyone about what was going on. And every time something happened, it's almost like she just was like, it's a term we have in counseling called locus of control. She's like, what is my locus of control? Like, I don't have the ability to do anything. Like, she had basically become a victim to everything that happened. If her parents were, fighting, if, she had someone at school be rude to her, like, she just kind of just stayed in this situation of, I can't do anything. This is just it. This is where I am. And I mean, that's depressing. And so I finally talked to her about it, and I said, listen, I understand that. You're right. Like, some of these things are very scary, and they are very hard, and they really aren't you. They really, I'm sorry, but it really is, her parents fighting and some of the things she's going through. I was like, but you have to stop and think about, what can I do? Like, where can I be? Like, how can I be healthier? And this is the really professional way I said it. Your internals, they affect your externals. And she was like, and I was like, you're right. So when I, like, the face y'all just gave me, like, what? I said, what goes on inside you is your armor. Like, not just spiritually, we know to put on the armor of God, but like, if you're taking care of yourself and you're, doing the right things, like drinking water. I asked her how much she drank. She goes, oh, a lot. And I was like, okay, how much water do you drink? Not drink alcohol, like water. And she's like, at least 2 glasses a day. Do we know, who knows how many? Are there doctors in here? How many are we supposed to have? Half your body weight ounces. Oh gosh, really? Oh dang, okay. Shoot. She's little, but that's not, 16 ounces ain't gonna cut it. And so, and I told her, I was like, I think it's at least 64. That's, the old school 8 glasses of 8 ounces on the little, isn't that what they used to have on the pyramids thing? Yeah. And she was like, oh. So we just talked about, can you increase your water? Like, can you start helping yourself in that area? Instead of like thinking everything's coming at you and everything is beyond your control, like looking and seeing like what you can do to make yourself better. Because as we've learned, all of us in our own lives and personal lives, as we've learned, as we've learned from going through 3 years of a pandemic, oh my goodness, those external things are coming. Like, we're going to have external things that hit us. Have you ever just been going along and you're doing all right, and then you get one phone call and it makes you really mad? Thank you for those of you who are nodding because you're honest Christians. I'm like, we have those moments, and if you don't have sleep, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, but if you don't have sleep, if you haven't had decent nutrition, if you're not drinking water, if you're not doing anything to get out all of that extra energy, it's going to hit you harder. So you might as well take care of the things, knowing that probably going to have a battle ahead of you. They always say he didn't promise that it would be easy, and that actually is pretty true. So from this majestic diagram, let's pull out a couple of the things that I started looking. There's so much. Like, obviously, I could have done a 20 video TikTok for you all, but I decided to spare you that. There's a lot of sparing, you guys. No aerobic outfits, no TikTok videos. You are so blessed today. Let's look at a couple of the different things that I was thinking about just as examples when we're talking about health. Obviously, nutrition. Our bodies need proper fuel. I had taken a class last week you had to take like continuing ed hours, and it's 6 hours long of nutrition. And the lady was really, really smart, but she just read 6 hours on all the slides. Have you ever had to go through a Zoom class like that? And she just read for 6 hours. And I did. I took a lot of notes and I learned a lot, but I'm actually not going to recommend that y'all do that. If y'all want anything on it, just come to me. I have notes, okay? And you can just read them yourself because you don't need me to sit there and read them for 6 hours. But she was talking about, I didn't know this, Vitamin B, how much vitamin B affects you. And as counselors, we're told not to like tell y'all, because that's beyond our scope of practice, like what to take. So I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, like, knowing those things about yourself and maybe where you don't have certain nutrition and how to increase that, and talking to your doctor about any changes in your health care. Done, check. Like vitamin B affects your nerve function, your memory, your mood, your physical balance. And then one that I hadn't started hearing till the last couple of years is about magnesium, how it also helps regulate your nervous system. I think I saw somewhere that and Brittany, I'm sorry to call you out, but like you may know this too, like is it 80% of kids or 70% of kids that have ADHD, we think they have a magnesium deficit? Have you heard that? But you've heard it's really high, right? That they think it's a magnesium deficit. And the crazy thing about that is that we don't check those things. Do y'all know anyone in town? And I really, if you don't mind telling me out loud, does anyone know anyone who checks those kinds of things in our city that will check all of your levels and your vitamins? He does? Okay, she said David Cartwright, the chiropractor. Okay, so he'll run some blood tests and things. Because I know when I go, my doctor checks my iron and my vitamin D, which are huge as well. But I don't think we check all the other things. So yeah, just things like that. Thank you very much. Yeah, magnesium helps regulate your, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
You can just ask your doctors, most of them.
They can run it?
Check just about anything. If you tell them you think you have an issue, and it would make you feel better if you knew what those levels were, a lot of them will just run it.
I know. I've had some where I've sent kids over to get it done, and the doctors are like, why? Like, and I don't know why we don't check kids. This isn't like bashing doctors. Doctors are wonderful, but I just don't know why we don't check kids for some of these things. Does anyone have a pediatrician that they check their kids for levels every year? Okay, I didn't know. I was like, am I going to the wrong one? Tell me now. No names, people. No names. So magnesium it helps regulate your nervous system. If y'all remember me talking about the nervous system, if those of you who are here, about like the vagus nerve and how it responds and how we go into fight and flight, or we go down into the freeze places when we experience some kind of danger, like magnesium actually, helps regulate that more. It helps repair DNA. It helps repair RNA. It has a lot to do with like muscle movement, relaxation. Those are just two, like out of all the things I learned, but there's so many more when you really want to look into like ways to improve. And I don't want y'all to go home and like have like a whole trench coat full of vitamins and such. Like, you want something? I got it. Like, I'm not asking you to be dealers on your vitamins, okay, people? But it would be funny, so send me a photo. Water alone, I was talking about that. It has a huge impact on functioning. I told the story last semester about one of my clients came in, and they know so much. These young people know so much. Y'all know so much. And you're just like, oh, okay. She said, yeah, I know I'm depressed, but it's because I'm dehydrated. I'm just not drinking water. And I'm like, Google. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Dehydration literally can make you look like you have depression and anxiety. And then it pulls, if you're not getting proper water, it pulls from all of your systems. And since it's all a system, as this beautiful photo shows you, you can get headaches. Like I said, you can have different mood symptoms. It's just, there's so much. I get super excited. And I know there's some doctors and health people in here, and I just almost want y'all to do like a whole hour on specific things that we could do to improve it. So that's just a few. And then there's stress. Stress is its own you would think, how does something outside of my body affect me so much? But it does. It also affects all of your major biological systems. Every time you have a stress response, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol. That sends blood rushing to areas that that your body thinks is an emergency. So your heart rate, increases, your respiratory system increases. And so your body's like on full alert with stress. And for some people, they basically run on that system. Like, they don't come back down very easily. Like, it's harder for them to regulate. And so their normal state is kind of, I almost feel like it feels like they're just being, like, just edgy, like electrocuted, because their little systems aren't coming, their little baby systems, their systems aren't coming back down. And so when you're under stress, I didn't realize until more recently, because we have the intranets, that what it does to your liver, like your liver starts producing extra blood sugar so that you'll have energy to deal with what's going on. And when that system doesn't regulate, that is the reason that some people might have diabetes type 2. So if there's any professionals in here, and I said that wrong, like medical people, just raise your hand. Oh, Paisley's calling. Sorry, that's my daughter's best friend. Yeah, that's nice. Thanks, Paisley. All right. So physical exercise, not just for looks, not just to go in there and look like, little bodybuilders that we all are, but it improves that stress response. By having physical exercise, it helps improve those cortisol levels, helps you get you regulated. It actually produces serotonin, which is like serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine are the main chemicals that keep your brain balanced. And I won't go into all of that. Like I said, we could probably do a whole nother hour on just these different systems, but that's probably pretty boring. But yeah, it helps with those cortisol levels. It helps with all of that. It helps regulate it, produces the serotonin. And then your nutrition can also produce serotonin, different foods. And honestly, I didn't go into a lot of these because I just kind of wanted you to have examples. I know a lot of you know places that you need to improve, or you already know places that you want to, do better. And so I didn't go through a great detail, but as I write them down, if it's something, just, you can go look it up too. It's pretty neat. There's some really cool websites. Like I listed that Stanford one. I'd gone on there in the last couple weeks and I was like, this is a really great website. It just teaches you some of the newer stuff that's out there. So if you like that, enjoy your research. So yeah, lack of sleep. Oh my goodness. That one is one that I'm having to remember every time I have a kid come in or a teenager come in or even an adult come in, that I have to ask them, how much sleep are you getting? Because if they're not getting sleep, and then I finally can't figure out what's going on. We've done all the talking, we've done all the thinking, we've done all the self-care and all of that, and then they're not sleeping, they're going to have all the symptoms of anxiety and depression, just that. You just got to think like a toddler. You don't have food, you don't have, sleep, you're angry little thing, kicking and screaming, and they're no different, and we're no different. And so the lack of sleep can produce those symptoms of depression and anxiety, cause you to be sick, affect those stress hormones, affects your thinking, your performance, and your ability to get along with others, especially if you're not a morning person. So how many of you are morning people? I just want to know. Okay. It makes me happy that it's not as many. Like I'm not. Are any of you really bad in the morning? Like you are not good? Like, yeah. She's pointing. Yeah. You sleep through it. Oh, I remember. We first got married. My husband, he's real chill. Like he's real calm, thank goodness. And he said, "You're mean. You're real mean in the mornings." And this is cheesy, but I don't know if it'll make sense out loud because I don't tell it in front of people, but here we are. I said, oh, okay, because I'm thinking, we're communicating and I need to change. But I'm so foggy and messed up in the morning until I get up and going. And so the alarm went off, and we still lived in Stillwater when we went to college and stuff, and the alarm goes off, and he goes, "Hey," and I wanted to say, "Press the snooze, I'm going back to sleep," but I'm dyslexic, and I go, "Press the Zoom, I'm going back to sleep." Because it got all mixed up, and I was out of it. So now, 20-something years later, he's like, "Press the Zoom, I'm going back to sleep," and I'm like, don't bring up the past. Love keeps no record of wrongs. So yeah, also, this may be a stretch, but I'm telling you anyways, your spiritual state can actually cause you to have some issues with your body. And most of you can kind of see that, like if you're not feeling good spiritually and the stress that hits you. But I have some really good stories about how I learned this the hard way for myself. And I really wish I would have gotten some violin music set up for this part, because I had to learn that pride definitely comes before the fall. Is that how it goes? Pride cometh before the fall. Isn't that a real thing? Okay, I just don't want to be prideful about it. So the first one was my first grade. Hold on. Literally, like, guys, I had to seriously learn that pride isn't good for me. In the first grade, I was mad at my boyfriend, and I was over at my grandma's house. Yeah, I had a boyfriend. And, just kidding. There's a lot of dysfunction with me. So I'm over at my grandma's house, and his name was Bo. And I don't know what he did, but apparently I was watching the, Real Housewives before there were even Real Housewives out, because I was that little girl, like in New Mexico, and I got mad. Literally went and put on all this makeup, like a ton of makeup, as my grandma's makeup, because it was at her house, and went outside to do cartwheels in the front yard to show off. That, I don't know why that makes any sense. Like, there's a reason I turned in to be a therapist. So I go out to show off, and I literally, like, my arm went into a hole and broke it in half. And all I remember is Bo and his brother. After we got to the hospital, that's a whole nother story. My grandma called my great-grandma and said Jenny broke her arm doing cartwheels. And my grandma spread it to the family that Jenny broke her arm with her arm in a car wheel. So I'm going down the road like this, apparently. So, yeah, good times. So anyways, that was the first one. Yeah. So, and I remember Bo and his brother just looking at me in the window and going, like, that was a tragic memory. And then in 5th grade, I was mad at my friends. There's a theme here of me thinking I'm really great. I was mad at my friends, and I was, we all lived out in the country and had horses and go-karts and all that. So I'm out, like, showing off out in the field, riding my horse gallantly through the field. And then I see all these, like, guys. I'm sure they were, like, in their early 20s, and I was a 5th grader, but I'm, like, going to ride by and, like, look all cool. And I'm just mad at the world out there. I hope y'all are getting the vision, my hair blowing in the wind. I don't think it was. And then I'm, like, showing off, and that horse bucks me off and steps on my shoulder, and literally, like, I get knocked out, and I look up, and there are all these grown men standing around me, like, oh my gosh. And so they had to cart me off to the hospital for that one. And then this is the last one. I just wanted to tell y'all, just because I'm getting it out of my system so we know. And now y'all can hold me accountable. Senior year, I tried out for student council, and I still remember what I was wearing. It was this olive green dress, and it had sheer sleeves with polka dots, real sheer. It was the 90s, lots of polka dots. And it kind of went to about right here, and I literally thought I looked so beautiful. Like, I was the stuff. And I made student council because we were tryouts, and I don't even know that we really got voted on. I think you just had to show up. But I really thought I'd made it in the world. And I'm walking back out to the car, like, I'm in student council now. And our cars were our lockers, so we'd go put our stuff out there. And I'm coming back, and I fall. Let me see if I could stand up. I fall in the middle of the road, the 4-way stop, and kids were leaving for athletics and stuff for 1 hour. And I fall like this. And the whole dress is over my head, and my whole backside is out, and people are honking at me. And I get up, and this is back when you wore pantyhose. Y'all remember pantyhose? I had bloody knees, and I just hobbled back into my math class, and that lady won't even let me go to the bathroom. So then I hated her for the rest of the year. So that probably was some sort of unforgiveness. So yeah, if you know nothing, there's no point for those stories except for to say, hopefully you all have learned things better than I have about some of these things and how your body is connected. And I definitely try not to show off as much because it hurts a lot. So yeah, that was your good little story of the day. You don't have to listen to another thing after that. This might not be your journey. These may not be your issues, but like we've been talking about, being mindful of what your struggles are and being mindful of what your issues are, it's really important. A lot of us will just be flying by without any stopping and going, what is wrong with me? What am I worrying about? What am I struggling in? And so I want you guys, we've been talking about the whys. I've been saying each time, what are your whys? And what I mean by that is, what are the things that are your priorities? What are the things that you go, you know what? This is my main thing in my life. My top 3 things, what do I really care about? When I leave this world, what do I want people to remember about me? So I want you to ask this question. How does your current state of physical health get in the way of your priorities? Just, if you're not feeling good and you can't do anything, just think about just want y'all to think about that. The next question is, does God care about the details of your physical health? And of course, the answer is yes, but there is proof. It is in the Bible. So I found some verses for you guys. The first one is Psalm 139:14. Because as I was saying earlier, there's so many details to us. It is so, that's been the most fun of being here and trying to learn how to teach you guys, because I'd never done this until Ann started letting me in the last year. So I'm learning, and I always want to do a good job for y'all, and I get really excited, and then I wish y'all could see it. My notes get really big, and they're like probably way too big, and then I try to bring them in. And so there's a lot more. We have a part 2 if y'all want it. Just come over to my house tomorrow. But yeah, it's so neat as I learn with y'all about how many details and how our whole system affects each other. And I like that verse in Psalm 139:14. It says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. So through the Bible, we see all that. Like, we see details of the body, just from him taking a part of, Adam's rib to make Eve, the issues with food, the lack of water. Oh, remember how we talked about how the Israelites acted when they were hungry? Those poor people, and they got hangry, and they would God, you don't even care about us. We'd rather just die in Egypt's graves. Are these graves, were those not good enough for us? Like, food and being hungry affects you. And I actually had a little bit of mercy for those Israelites, more than just going, what were you thinking? You saw God and you still complained. But I'm like, you know what? They were really hungry, and they were thirsty, and they had issues. So I was sweeter about them. I'm really forgiving there. And then, the brain itself. I don't know how many of y'all love stuff like this, but I had read something that said one human brain has more wiring and electrical circuitry than all the computer systems combined. That's kind of crazy. I even fact-checked that and saw it again. I was like, that can't be real. That is amazing that one of our brains has that much intricacy. And I'm thinking, if you can't believe in God, because if you think something just came in and just blew this up and we're all here, I can't get that, because that's amazing. And the sheer number of types of turtles, that also gets me. That's amazing. I'm not a big turtle fan, but man, there's so many kinds. That's so cool. So yeah, our tiniest little details. Why does God care about them? Because of Ephesians 2:10. It says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So we are being prepared to do what he needs us to. And so our details and our health and how we can have energy and how we're feeling, it does matter. And of course, probably the most popular reference in the Bible about it is 1 Corinthians chapter 6. And that's verse 19. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. So it is important. And I just had to throw a Proverbs 31 verse in there for the Proverbs 31 woman, because, we're all women. And that lady was really great, besides the fact that she had to wake up early. That we all know now. It's not my thing. So it was verse 17. So Proverbs 31, verse 17. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. And just the fact that there are 26 different stories, and I learned more about that too, about some people are thinking which ones of these are legit miracles or which ones are not, but of Jesus healing. There are 26 different stories of him healing throughout, his time. And so he cared about our physical presence while we were here. And I don't know that I'm saying this right, but you know how we talked last semester, for those of you who were here, about is it Anne for Shema? Is that how you say it? Shema. I said it. Yes. I even tried to do the thing where you write it the right way, how you say it, but I was like, no, I can't. Dyslexia, not fun. It's a word that I didn't even know, until last semester when we were talking about it, but it's we see it in Deuteronomy 6, verse 5, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, with all your strength. So as I said, how do we focus on our health so much that we can do this well? How do we know what to do? Because there is so much information. Even if you don't have TikTok, which a lot of you don't because you're good people, how do you do that? There's so many things and books and articles. And I used to read Women's World like a fiend, like a little fanatic, just loved. Did y'all ever read Women's World? Because y'all are young and good. Any older people than me that liked Women's World, the magazine? Is it just me? Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, so many articles. And you could either lose weight this day, and then the other thing, you wouldn't lose the weight with that. And you're just like, oh gosh, like it was very confusing. So there's so much to consider. Like, is it nutrition? Is it exercise? Is it water? Is it reducing stress? Do we need to go to the doctor when you can't see and you have 16 pairs of reading glasses around your house and your husband's pointing that out, and then you have to get in a fight about it because it's all system. So I don't know who would do that, but 16 pairs is light. Like, that is not that many. You can get them on Amazon. So like, how do we become, like, how are we supposed to deal with our health and prevention and trying to feel better and do better if we're not all or nothing in it? Like, do any of you think like you're going to start really well and then you do one little thing wrong, you're like, nah, that's it. That was my journey. I'm done. Are y'all all like really good? Thank you. You people who raise your hands, there should be bonus prizes. Thank you. Yeah, like, do y'all remember the old commercials about the bonbons, like sitting at the house, like eating the bonbons? Were they like ice cream with chocolate on them? Is that what that was? I can't remember. I don't think we couldn't afford bonbons back in my day. Just kidding. I just don't know that we had them. It was some kind, was it candy or ice cream is what I need to know. Okay, it was ice cream, yeah. Like, they would just be like sluggardly eating their bonbons every time they had an issue. It's like, do we do that and just be like, Lord, protect my body with my bonbons or whatever, or the hot Cheetos that I want to partake in today? Or do you become like what Jamie talked about last time about functional idols? Like, sometimes we have functional idols, and there are some people that their health and nutrition, it's an idol for them. Like, it takes all of their time, it takes all of their energy. And y'all remember that, if y'all listen to Jamie, if not, it's really good. Listen to hers from last week. But it can become a functional idol. So how do you know if you're going too far, or if you're, if the toxins are going to get you, or if the space balloons and UFOs are going to get you? Oh, wait, that's a different subject. Sorry, there's no space balloons and UFOs on this one. But also very interesting. I think the answer comes down to discernment. Like, we have to be able to know that all of this information is coming at us, that God values our physical health, and he wants us to be healthy so that we can do the works that he set out for us. And we need wisdom to be able to filter through this. I was thinking back, how many of you, okay, I'm 45, so I don't know what it was like for people younger than me, but anyone older than me, tell me if you remember your first email. Or the first time you started emailing? Like, about how old were you? Or you were 8, right, because you're a tiny little thing. I get it, you're young. Yeah. Do y'all remember? Okay. Yeah, like, I remember sitting, yes, ma'am. Oh. The like the AOL dial-up is what she was saying. I remember we could barely do it my senior year. I could remember that we could see it on our computers, and it was I don't know how y'all's look, but it was a black screen with green letters. Do y'all remember? Is this jogging your memories? For those of you who are younger, you do not get how much this has changed just since y'all have been here. Like, it is crazy how much it's changed. Everything and the information that we get and all of the stuff, like, y'all are used to it, but it is a lot different than when we were in high school and younger. We still had the little typewriting classes. I don't know if they do that anymore. Do they do typewriting classes anymore? Yeah, they're missing that clickety-clack. That's nostalgia. So, yeah, how about, how many minutes were on your first cell phone? How many? 10? Oh, and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap at all. Mine was 30 minutes. And I guess in New Mexico we had like fancier cell phones, but no, it was 30 minutes. And so I had this little boyfriend that I would want to call back at home, and I'd have to go put money in the payphone because you couldn't use your cell phone minutes. Some of you remembering this? Anybody else have it? Anybody, 30 minutes, 60 minutes? Like, do y'all remember? 90 minutes? Oh, look at you, fancy. Like, not the whole minutes. No, I didn't know a lot. No, it's so crazy to think about. How many of you remember the first time you saw anything on your phone, like a news story or something? You remember do you remember what like, I can remember seeing a news story, like, I don't remember what it was, but on my husband's phone. And I was like, whoa. Can y'all remember like what we were reading? Oh, I found it, by the way. I found it, look. It's a BlackBerry. Do y'all remember these? You had the razor. Oh, wow. Oh, really, what was really bad, so this is a BlackBerry. Have you ever seen one of these before? I know, right? It probably goes for a lot on eBay. Yeah, I was like, I bet we still have that because he's like that. And I was like, sure enough, this little tiny news story would show up on here and you'd be like, ooh, and you'd have to push on it and like hope it would come up and it'd take forever. And honestly, that was within probably 13, 14 years, I think, for me. Like that's how new this is. Oh, and then I found, while I was looking for that, I found this. Nice. Is this a shuffle? Yeah, I apologize. I thought it was a shuffle. Yeah, I was like, I thought that this one is not a shuffle. I don't know. Is it like after the shuffle? The shuffle's littler. Dude, yeah. I thought this thing was witchcraft. I was like, this is amazing. The fact that you can get music on here, like that's crazy. So I know that for you younger people, y'all are used to it, but we really, if your mom told you something when you were young, you had to find an encyclopedia or a literal library book to go get information. We did not have wisdom like they did. And when I first had Hudson, he was 16. When he's 16 now, I remember I could barely Google an ailment. You know how you Google every single thing that's going wrong and all the, maybe y'all don't because you're healthy, but I didn't. I would like Google everything and worry about all that was going to happen. I could barely even find anything. And by the time I had my third child, I could freak out regularly, easily, because it happened so fast. So I have to tell clients a lot and myself, God before Google, God before Google, God before Google, deep breaths, because we've got all that wisdom at our disposal. So of course, when we think back to people of the Bible who had wisdom, we think about Solomon. He's a great example. And I learned more about him getting ready for y'all. He basically knew that he wasn't going to be able to do this job. He was the son of David and Bathsheba. He was the third and final king of the unified nation of Israel. He wrote Song of Solomon, makes sense, a lot of the Proverbs, and I think from what I saw that they think he wrote a lot of the Ecclesiastes, but I think they debate on which ones and things like that. I'm not that far theologically sound, so I don't know exactly which ones. But if y'all want to open your Bibles up to 1 Kings chapter 3. He knew that he needed help. He knew, like, he was ready to go to God and ask for help. And so he's a really good example of what wisdom can do. But now I feel like we're all kind of like Solomon's. Like, we have the wisdom at us. You know, we're not going to have what Solomon had, but we have all of that wisdom because we have so much information now. But we still need the discernment that he needed. So in 1 Kings chapter 3, it says he was sacrificing to the Lord. And then verse 4, it says, the king went to Gibeon, is it right, Gibeon, Ann? Okay, I didn't check that one, to offer sacrifices, for that was the most important high place. And Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. And in verse 5, it says, the Lord appeared to Solomon during a dream, and he said, ask for whatever you want, and I will give it to you. Verse 7, he says, I'm only a little child, and I do not know how to carry out my duties. And then it goes into verse 9. I kind of skipped through because I didn't know how he'd be on time. But it says, give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth or for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment and administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart. He then says he will also give him, he goes on to say, he will give him basically like bonus gifts of wealth and honor. And if he behaves himself, or he says he keeps his decrees, he'll have a long life. So that sounds great, right? You think, okay, I'm all set. And it actually goes pretty well for him for a little while. He is definitely he is wise. He is, everybody thinks of him. And this is how, right after he starts to ask God, is where it gets to the story of the two women who were mothers who come to him. And a lot of you know that one, but this is where he first needed discernment. So the two women come to him, and it's right after that if you want to read about it later. But they come up to him, and it says they were, wayward, like prostitutes. I'm just going to say that. And they lived in the same house, and they both had a baby. And one of them wakes up, and her baby is not there. Well, she sees that it's the other, she thinks that the baby has passed away, but it's really like she doesn't know what happened. So she goes to fight. They go to Solomon. I'm telling this like it's a Kardashian love story here. Hold on. So they go up to Solomon and they say, this is our baby. They're both saying the same thing. And he can't tell whose is whose. And so he just says, go get my sword. And they go get his sword. And he's like, I will cut it in half. And the true mother in that story says, no, let him live. And the other one's like, well, you won't have it either. Like, she is petty. Like, she is real petty. And so then the king obviously knew that the one who said to spare its life was its real mother. So it says after that in verse 28, when all of Israel heard the verdict that he had given, because he's like, this is the true mother, they held him in awe because they said that he had wisdom from God to administer justice. So like I said, this story definitely has like a plot twist because he goes on and has kingdoms and all these great things happen. And then he goes downhill. So we could have a whole other thing on what Solomon did. But definitely obedience and not thinking you're too big for your britches or, trying to show off with cartwheels in your front yard for boys. Those are things you want to really take heed about, okay? Tonight's the night. So the Old Testament, it's rough. I told y'all before, I've been trying to read it, and I am learning, and it's getting better as you get through Genesis and Exodus. I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I'm just glad that those aren't the issues that we're going through right now. I'm just trying to find, a proper fitness plan and how to increase my water intake. But they really needed that discernment and that wisdom. And for you all, I bet that kind of the area that you want to grow in. If you're not sleeping, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not doing any kind of movement, your struggles. And over the last, weeks, we've talked about, I talked about the cost of clutter, and I talked about the causes of clutter. And honestly, I didn't go back through all that, but a lot of those, if you did hear those, they're the same. Avoidance. We don't want to face our things. We're so down and sad that we don't have the energy to do some of these things and to grow. But there is some really cool stuff I saw. Some of you might think, well, this is just how my family is. This is what I came from. This is my destiny. Well, it's not. That class I was telling y'all about? I did not know this, but they had looked at the, I wrote in here, fear not, little flock. Who knows that? Who's ever heard that before? Oh my gosh, me neither. Until I was getting ready for y'all. Fear not, little flock. It's in Luke. I just want to say it all the time. Fear not, little flock. Fear not. It just sounds so fancy. Fear not, because we have the ability to change. What I learned about was epigenetics, and it's called the science of epigenetics. And it says that scientists used to believe that our DNA or our genome was 100% based on our genetics, pre-programmed. What you were when you came out was what you were. And if you had more diabetes in your family, if you had certain things, and some of these things are more genetic, even with the mental health things than others, but they used to think, that's it. Be ready, because that's it. Well, in the early 2000s, they did a study on it was the Human Genome Project, and they said that it was actually only 30%. 30%. That's some numbers we can live with, y'all. That's not too bad. So 70% of your well-being and the things that you go through, is it predisposition? Am I saying that right? Thank you. You do have some predispositions to some things, but 70% of our life, and it's these big areas, are controllable, and they're influenced by 4 areas. And I learned all this after, because I've been preparing for you guys for a few weeks. Environment, nutrition, exercise, spiritual and social relationships. So before I even drew all this, I learned this, and I was like, man, it's like the circle of life. I was like, it is so neat how it really is all connected, and we actually have some control, physical control. I know we always say we don't have any control, God's in control, but we have some physical control over some of these things. So to tell you a little bit more about that, I wanted y'all to look at the stages of change. And let me see, I think I have a picture of that for you. Let me pull that up. There they are. The stages of change. All of us can change. We're just going to be in one of these stages. So whatever you're going through, you're going to be in a certain stage, okay? And they use this for addiction, for addiction models, but they also use this for other mental health models. Basically, the pre-contemplation stage, that's the stage where, this one right here, I ain't doing anything. I'm good. I'm not contemplating nothing. Like, you're just there. You're going to stay right there. No intention of changing your behavior. No need. Yeah, I know I need water. Not doing it. So it's very stuck place. And then we get to the contemplation stage. That's where you're aware a problem exists. You're not ready to move yet, but you're at least aware. The preparation stage is when you're intent upon taking action. You're like, no, I have to start doing something. And this is just basics. If you look up stages of change, you'll find all sorts of different models. You can find different graphs. It's really neat. Like you can basically just pinpoint yourself on these on any given situation. So when you're in preparation, you're going to take action. When you're in the action stage, you're actually trying to modify. So in the preparation stage, I think that's the one where you're actually starting to learn about it. You're starting to prep yourself for that you need to do something. There's the action stage that you're going to actively modify your behavior. And that's when you're, growing. And then the maintenance stage is where you have like a sustained change, like you're in it. And then on this one, it doesn't show it, but there is a relapse stage. You've got to have there is a relapse stage where you can fall into old patterns and behaviors. The only thing about it, though, they call this an upward spiral. This whole system is because every time, even if you do relapse or even if you do go back to your old ways, it's almost like the way your brain fires, the fact that it knows, the fact that it's seen change, you actually will grow and learn from each, even if you relapse. So it's kind of cool. So we already know now that 70% of us can change, 70%, the 30% we got to have some acceptance for. But like, even if you don't live out everything perfectly, just knowing where you need to be and growing is amazing. Like you're doing something. And so I was thinking about it all, like as I was thinking about how we broke it all up and, what all we see and all the things that can overwhelm you. I think that this would be what I would think the final goal of this whole lesson is. Going for movement. I just want movement for y'all and for myself. Not just physical movement, obviously that's on the list, but movement. Asking God for his wisdom and the ability to discern and move. You don't want to be stuck in one of these stages for, unless it's the good stage and you're in maintenance, I guess that's a good one to be in. But there's always something else you can be growing in. And we talked last time, I talked about sanctification, like we're always growing, whether it be spiritually or physically, like we have this ability to keep going. And I don't know. I used to joke that I was going to have it all together by like 64-ish. I'd be like, oh, but when I'm 64, it's going to be good. It's all going to be good. But now I keep getting closer to that, and I keep pushing that number back. And now I really know that we always want to keep growing. Not because God doesn't love us or because we're not enough, but just because it's so neat to stay dynamic and keep moving. Those small changes will produce lasting results. So we can see that from this little thing and the fact that it's an upward spiral. So I have some good news to report on that. Since I have been getting ready to teach you guys, because I definitely don't want to practice, not practice what I preach, I want to tell you tonight that the sock bucket, done. I don't think enough, yeah. That's what I needed right there. It was not prideful. I just need that from y'all, okay? Like, it's not me being pride. I don't need to fall off the stage. We don't need that. I was just really excited to tell y'all that the sock bucket is now folded. I'd said every time that this sock bucket is just looming and the kids dig in it like little Weasley hamsters and then gripe about not having socks. So also some boxes have been donated. Like I put a bunch. You don't have to clap for all these, I promise. I'm not that vain. I promise. I have worked out more than I had before. Like not crazy, like I'm, not running any of the classes at the gym yet, but probably tomorrow, next weekish. Also, I'm not shopping as much because I've been so aware. And I don't know if any of you have heard, but Dirt Cheap is closing. Oh gosh, what? Tuesday morning too? What is this world? Oh. So yeah, I can't pay always full prices at Target. So I'm very sad. So I'm not shopping as much because I'm not paying all that. But I have noticed as we've been teaching, like these small changes have helped. Has anybody else can just kind of nod if you've made tiny small changes? Oh, yay. So exciting. That's so great. So yeah, I've just noticed more peace. Sometimes because I'm not having to clean something or not having to be stressed about something, I kind of have noticed like I'm kind of bored. I'm like, there should be something going on here. Like, can y'all still hear me? I'm like, there's something going on. Like, I don't know. I'm having to learn now that it doesn't always have to be chaos at the house. And so that's a new stage. That's a new phase. I don't have that one on there. like maintenance, I guess. I wanted to finish up before I let y'all have a few minutes to yourselves. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Andy Stanley. And, I think I actually got it for you. Hold on. You're welcome to take a photo. It's this one. In light of my past experience, my current circumstances, and future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for me to do? So just with everything we talked about tonight, depending on, what you're going through, what you've seen happen in people around you, older people in your life, just thinking like, what's wise? Like, what do I need to be doing to keep growing? I just really like that one. I think I'm going to get a tattoo on my neck. I think it'll look really nice, maybe in Latin. We just have about 10 minutes left, Ann. I always never know when time y'all are supposed to go. 10-ish. You can run out right now if you want. Don't forget to stop by and get the copy of your beautiful chart. We have about 10 minutes left, and I just want y'all to, when I put those questions on there at the front, I don't think I probably ever explained this well, but I just put them in as journal questions for you to stop and reflect, because that's something I do in my practice all the time, and I do for myself all the time, is just writing things down, because it makes all of the not logical part from this part of your brain be more logical, and I don't always remember the things I've learned. So I put these journal things in here for y'all to do that. If you remember to fill out your prayer cards, that would be great. And then there's that last question together, and then we will close.